Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Frontier, watching the stars stretch past the main window. The ship had been traveling for 3 months now, heading toward the edge of known space where no human had ever been before. Jake was 42 years old and had spent 15 years exploring the galaxy. He had seen many strange things, but nothing had prepared him for what they were about to find. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Amy Foster. From her position at the communications station, she was young, only 25, but she was the best language expert in the fleet. Her job was to listen for any signals from other worlds or alien species. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" Amy's fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "It's coming from about 2 light years ahead of us. The signal is very old, maybe millions of years old, but it's still broadcasting." Dr. Lisa Kane looked up from her science station. She was 38 years old and had studied alien life for most of her career. "That's impossible. No technology could broadcast for millions of years without maintenance." "That's what makes it so interesting," Amy said. "The signal is using multiple frequencies at once. It's almost like someone wanted to make sure every species in the galaxy could hear it." Commander Rick Barnes stepped forward. He was the military officer on the ship, responsible for keeping everyone safe. At 45, he had fought in several wars and knew danger when he saw it. Could it be a trap? Jake thought about this. "Only one way to find out. Amy, can you get us closer to the source?" "Already working on it, Captain. The signal is coming from what looks like a small artificial moon. It's orbiting a dead star system." The New Frontier changed course and headed toward the mysterious signal. As they got closer, the crew could see a metal structure floating in space. It was about the size of a small city, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a soft blue light. "That's definitely not human technology," Dr. Kane said, studying the readings on her screen. "The metal is unknown to us. It's also incredibly old, but it shows no signs of damage from space or time." Amy's voice became excited. "Captain, I'm starting to decode the signal. It's a message, and it's in multiple languages. Some of them I've never seen before." "Can you translate it?" Jake asked. "I'm trying." "The computer is helping, but this is going to take some time." Amy worked for several hours while the ship moved closer to the alien structure. Finally, she looked up with a worried expression. "Captain, you need to hear this." The bridge became quiet as Amy played the decoded message. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded strange and ancient. "We are the Velthera. We were once a proud species that traveled among the stars. We built great cities and explored many worlds. But we made a terrible mistake. We awakened those who should have been left to sleep forever. Now we are gone, and only this message remains." The message continued. "If you are hearing this, your species has reached the stars. You have technology and curiosity. You explore and expand across the galaxy. This is good, but it is also dangerous. There are those who have slept for millions of years. They ruled the galaxy long before your species existed. They destroyed us and many others who came too close to their domain." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Keep playing it." "These ancient ones call themselves the Kethmori. They are powerful beyond understanding. They can bend reality itself to their will. They see the galaxy as their property and all other species as temporary guests. When a species becomes too successful, too widespread, they awaken from their sleep." Dr. Kane was taking notes quickly. "This is incredible. An entire civilization leaving a warning for future species." The message went on. "We have studied many species across the galaxy. We have watched them grow and spread among the stars. But there is one species that concerns us most. They call themselves humans. They are young, but they burn bright like new stars. They are curious and brave, but also stubborn. They do not give up easily." Jake and his crew looked at each other in surprise. The message was talking about them specifically. The humans will spread faster than any species before them. They will explore every corner of the galaxy. They will ask questions about everything they find. This will inevitably lead them to the sleeping places of the Kethmori. And when that happens, the Ancient Ones will wake up angry. Commander Barnes crossed his arms. How could they know about us? This message is millions of years old. We do not know why the humans are different, the message continued, as if answering his question. Perhaps it is because they evolved on a world with many dangers. Perhaps it is because they learned to work together despite their differences. But we have seen the future in our calculations. The humans will not bow to the Kethmori. They will fight, even when the odds are impossible. Amy paused the message. There's more, but it gets technical. It gives coordinates to other warning beacons like this one. It also talks about the Kethmori's technology and how they use it. Jake sat down in his captain's chair. What does it say about their technology? The Kethmori can manipulate space and time. They can make their ships appear and disappear. They can destroy entire planets with a thought. But the message suggests they have weaknesses too. The Velthera never figured out what those weaknesses were. Dr. Kane looked at her readings again. Captain, I'm detecting several other similar structures in this system. Each one is broadcasting the same message in different languages. How many languages? Jake asked. At least 300. Maybe more. The Velthera wanted to make sure every species in the galaxy would eventually hear this warning. Commander Barnes shook his head. So let me understand this. Some ancient alien species is warning us that we're going to wake up an even more ancient and powerful species that will try to destroy us? That's about right, Amy said. And they think we're too stubborn to listen to the warning. Apparently. Jake stood up and walked to the main window. He looked out at the alien structure floating in space. What do you all think we should do? Dr. Kane spoke first. We should collect as much information as we can. This is the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. We need to study these beacons and learn everything we can about both the Velthera and the Kethmori. Commander Barnes disagreed. We should head back to Earth immediately and report this to the military. If there's a threat to humanity, we need to prepare for it. Amy had a different idea. We should try to find more of these beacons. The message mentioned coordinates to other locations. Maybe we can learn more about what happened to the Velthera and how they tried to fight the Kethmori. Jake thought about their options. He had always been an explorer at heart. The idea of turning back now, when they had found something so incredible, went against everything he believed in. But he also had a responsibility to his crew and to humanity. We'll do all three, he decided. Amy, send a full report back to Earth about what we've found. Include everything. The message, the coordinates, and our location. Dr. Kane, I want you to study this beacon thoroughly. Learn everything you can about the technology and the species that built it. He turned to Commander Barnes. Rick, I want you to analyze the military aspects of this message. If the Kethmori are real, and if they are as powerful as the Velthera claimed, we need to understand what we might be facing. And what about the coordinates to the other beacons? Amy asked. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We're going to visit every single one of them. If the Velthera were right about humans being stubborn, then they're about to be proven correct. We're not heading home until we know everything there is to know about this threat. The crew of the new Frontier spent the next 2 weeks studying the alien beacon. They learned that the Velthera had been a peaceful species, much like humans, who had explored the galaxy with curiosity and wonder. They had built a great civilization spanning hundreds of worlds before encountering the Kethmori. The Ancient Ones had given the Velthera the same ultimatum they gave to all expanding species: return to your home world and never leave again or face extinction. The Velthera had tried to negotiate to find a peaceful solution. The Kethmori had responded by destroying their entire civilization in a single day. As the new Frontier prepared to leave for the next beacon site, Jake stood on the bridge one last time looking at the Velthera structure. He thought about the warning and what it meant for humanity. The message had been clear: humans would not submit to the Kethmori. They would fight. Jake had to admit the aliens were probably right about that. Humans had never been good at backing down from a fight, especially when someone told them they had to give up their freedom. If the Kethmori wanted humanity to return to Earth and never explore space again, they were going to be disappointed. The new frontier jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the next beacon and the next piece of the puzzle. Behind them, the Velthora beacon continued its eternal broadcast, warning anyone who would listen about the dangers that lay ahead. But as the ancient message had predicted, humanity was not very good at listening to warnings. 6 months had passed since the new frontier discovered the Velthora beacon. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had visited 12 more beacon sites, each one telling the same story of ancient warnings and sleeping dangers. They had sent detailed reports back to Earth, but space was vast and communication took time. Admiral Helen Cross sat in her office on Earth, reading the latest reports from deep space exploration teams. At 55, she had commanded the Earth Defense Forces for 8 years and had seen many strange things. But nothing quite like what Captain Morrison was reporting from the Outer Rim. "Ma'am, we have another situation," said Colonel Pete Johnson, entering her office. He was a tough military man who had fought in 3 different wars. His job was to keep Earth's colonies safe from any threats. "What kind of situation?" Admiral Cross asked, looking up from her papers. 3 ships have gone missing in the past month. All of them were exploring the same region where Morrison found those beacons. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing. They just vanished. Admiral Cross frowned. "Pirates? That's what we thought at first. But pirates usually leave some evidence. These ships just disappeared completely, like they never existed." Before Admiral Cross could respond, her communication system beeped. "Admiral, we have an urgent message from New Haven Colony," said her assistant, New. Haven was a farming world about 50 light-years from Earth. It had been settled only 5 years ago, and was home to about 2 million people. The colonists grew food for other worlds and lived peaceful lives. "Put it through," Admiral Cross said. The screen showed a man with a terrified expression. "This is Governor Paul Carter on New Haven. We are under attack by unknown ships. They appeared out of nowhere and destroyed our defense satellites in minutes. We need help immediately." The transmission cut off suddenly. Admiral Cross and Colonel Johnson looked at each other with worry. "Get me Captain Morrison," Admiral Cross ordered. "He's too far away to help," Colonel Johnson said. "The nearest military ships are 6 days away from New Haven." "Then send everything we have." But by the time Earth ships reached New Haven, the attack was over. The colony was still there, but all the military defenses had been destroyed. The strange thing was that no colonists had been killed. The attackers had been very precise, targeting only military installations. Dr. Sam Rivers arrived on New Haven 3 days later. He was an archaeologist who specialized in studying ancient alien cultures. At 41, he had spent his career trying to understand how different species had lived and died throughout the galaxy. "This is incredible," Dr. Rivers said, studying the wreckage of a defense satellite. "Look at these burn marks. The metal has been melted, but in a pattern I've never seen before. It's like the attackers used some kind of energy weapon that works differently from anything we know." Governor Carter led him to the colony's main building. "They left us a message," he said. "It came through our communication system right after the attack." The message was short and simple, but it made everyone who heard it feel cold with fear. The voice was strange, almost musical, but there was something terrifying about it. "We are the Kethmori. We have slept for millions of years, but your species has awakened us with your expansion across the galaxy. You have 30 of your days to return to your home world and cease all exploration beyond your star system. If you do not comply, we will demonstrate why other species have chosen to obey us." Dr. Rivers played the message several times, trying to understand it. "The voice patterns are unlike anything in our databases. This is definitely an alien species, and they're talking about the same things mentioned in the Velthora beacons." Within hours, the message was being broadcast across all human colonies. Some people panicked and wanted to evacuate immediately. Others were angry and wanted to fight. Most were simply confused and afraid. Admiral Cross called an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. President Maria Santos, a strong woman who had led Earth through many difficult times, listened to all the reports with a calm expression. Let me understand this correctly, President Santos said. These aliens, the Kethmori, are demanding that we abandon all our colonies and never leave Earth again? That's correct, Madam President, Admiral Cross replied. They're giving us 30 days to comply, and if we don't, they're threatening to destroy us like they apparently destroyed the Velthera and other species. President Santos was quiet for a long moment. How many people live in our colonies? About 40 million, spread across 67 worlds, Colonel Johnson answered. And they want us to just abandon them? It appears so. President Santos stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the city below, thinking about all the people who depended on her to keep them safe. What do we know about these Kethmori? How powerful are they? Dr. Rivers spoke up. Based on the Velthera beacons and what we saw at New Haven, they have technology far beyond our understanding. They can make their ships invisible, appear and disappear at will, and their weapons can destroy our defenses easily. But they didn't kill anyone at New Haven, President Santos noted. No, they didn't. They were very precise. They only destroyed military targets. That suggests they're not just mindless killers. They have rules, strategies. Meanwhile, Captain, Morrison and his crew were still exploring the outer rim when they received the news about New Haven. They immediately changed course and headed toward the colony to investigate. This is exactly what the Velthera warned us about, Dr. Kane said, studying the reports. The Kethmori have awakened because humanity has spread too far across the galaxy. How did they even know about us? Amy Foster asked. We've only been in space for a few hundred years. Maybe they've been watching us all along, Commander Barnes suggested. Maybe they watch all species and decide when they've gone too far. When the New Frontier reached New Haven, they found the colony in a state of fear and confusion. The colonists wanted to leave, but they also didn't want to abandon the homes they had built. Many of them had been born on New Haven and had never seen Earth. Captain Morrison met with Governor Carter and Dr. Rivers to discuss what had happened. Did you get any readings on their ships? He asked. Our sensors couldn't get a clear picture, Governor Carter replied. The ships seemed to bend light around them. They were like shadows moving through space. Dr. Rivers showed them the analysis of the weapon damage. Whatever they used, it's not based on any technology we understand. The energy signatures are completely alien. How many ships attacked? Morrison asked. We think there were 5 or 6, but we can't be sure. They moved so fast and were so hard to see. That night, as the crew of the New Frontier slept, something unexpected happened. Captain Morrison was awakened by the ship's alarm system. He rushed to the bridge to find Amy Foster at her station, looking frightened. Captain, we're being scanned by something, she said. The sensors can't identify what it is, but it's definitely not human. Before Morrison could respond, the main screen flickered and showed the image of an alien being. It was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were large and silver, and when it spoke, its voice was the same musical tone they had heard in the message. You are the humans who have been collecting the warnings left by the Velthera, the being said. You have learned about us, yet you continue to spread across the galaxy. Morrison stepped forward. I'm Captain Morrison of the human ship New Frontier. Who are you? I am Kethvalor, speaker for the Kethmori Empire. We have been watching your species since you first left your homeworld. You grow too quickly, spread too far. Like the Velthera and others before you, you must be controlled. The Velthera beacons said you destroyed their entire civilization, Morrison said. The Velthera chose to resist our guidance. They suffered the consequences. We do not wish to repeat this with your species, but we will if necessary. Dr. Kane stepped up beside Morrison. Why do you care what we do? The galaxy is vast. There's room for everyone. Kethvalor's expression didn't change. The galaxy belongs to the Kethmori. We have ruled here for millions of years. Other species exist only because we allow it. When a species becomes too successful, too numerous, they upset the balance we have maintained. What balance? Morrison asked. The balance of power. The balance of resources. The balance of knowledge. Your species learns too quickly, adapts too fast. You ask too many questions and refuse to accept simple answers. This makes you dangerous. Commander Barnes couldn't stay quiet any longer. Dangerous to who? We haven't attacked anyone. You have not attacked us yet, Kethvala replied, but you will. It is your nature. We have studied your species for centuries. You fight when threatened, even when the odds are impossible. You do not surrender, even when surrender would save lives. Morrison felt anger rising in his chest. You're right about one thing. We don't surrender to bullies. This is not bullying. Human, this is survival. Your species will comply with our demands, or you will join the Velthra in extinction. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the crew of the New Frontier alone with their thoughts. They had just had their first conversation with the aliens, who claimed to rule the galaxy, and it had not gone well. Captain, Amy said quietly, I'm receiving messages from Earth. The 30-day deadline was now 15 days away. President Maria Santos sat in the emergency meeting room with her top advisors, trying to make the most difficult decision in human history. The room was filled with tension as everyone waited for her to speak. Give me the latest reports, she said to Admiral Cross. 23 colonies have voted to evacuate, Admiral Cross replied. But 44 colonies have voted to stay and fight. The rest are still deciding. General Tony Wright, the head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward. Madam President, we need to be realistic. The Kethmori destroyed the Velthra and other advanced species. We've only been in space for a few hundred years. How can we possibly fight beings who have ruled the galaxy for millions of years? Captain Beth Taylor, who commanded the Special Operations Forces, disagreed. General Wright, with respect, we've never backed down from a fight when our freedom was threatened. If we surrender now, we'll be prisoners on our own world forever. Engineer Chris Murphy, who had been working on new weapons, spoke up. I've been studying the data from New Haven. The Kethmori technology is advanced, but it's not magic. Everything they do follows physical laws. If we can understand those laws, we can find ways to fight them. President Santos listened to all of them, but she was thinking about the 40 million people living in the colonies. What about the colonists who want to evacuate? Can we get them all back to Earth in time? Not all of them, Admiral Cross said sadly. We don't have enough transport ships. Even if we used every civilian vessel, we could only evacuate about half the colonies before the deadline. And the ones who stay? They'll have to defend themselves with whatever we can give. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and his crew were still exploring the Outer Rim, visiting the remaining Velthra beacon sites. They had discovered something important at the latest beacon. Dr. Kane was studying the new information when she called everyone to the briefing room. I found something incredible, she said, showing them images on the main screen. This beacon has different information than the others. It's not just a warning, it's a detailed study of Kethmori technology and tactics. Commander Barnes studied the images. What does it say? The Velthra were scientists, just like us. Before they were destroyed, they spent years studying their enemies. They discovered that the Kethmori have 3 main weaknesses. Captain Morrison sat up straighter. What are they? First, they're not as numerous as they want us to believe. The Velthra estimated there are only about 10,000 Kethmori in the entire galaxy. They use fear and superior technology to control other species, but they don't have the numbers for a long war. Amy Foster looked confused. But if there are so few of them, how do they control so many worlds? That's the second weakness, Dr. Kane continued. They rely heavily on automated systems and fear tactics. Most species surrender after seeing a demonstration of their power. The Kethmori rarely have to fight extended battles. And the third weakness? Morrison asked. Their technology requires specific conditions to work properly. The Velthra discovered that certain electromagnetic frequencies can disrupt their systems. They never had time to develop weapons using this information, but we might. Morrison contacted Engineer Murphy on Earth immediately. Chris, we're sending you some new data. The Velthera discovered that Kethmori technology can be disrupted by specific electromagnetic frequencies. Murphy's voice crackled through the communication system. That's amazing news, Captain. I've been working on something similar. Give me 3 days to study this data, and I might have a prototype weapon ready. But 3 days later, before Murphy could finish his work, the Kethmori struck again. This time they attacked the mining world of Red Rock, home to 500,000 people. The attack was different from New Haven. Instead of just destroying military targets, they wiped out entire cities. The message that followed was broadcast across all human space. Keth Valor appeared on every screen, his silver eyes cold and threatening. Humans, you have ignored our warning. You continue to spread across the galaxy and refuse to return to your homeworld. Red Rock is an example of what happens to those who defy the Kethmori Empire. You have 10 days remaining. Comply or face the same fate as the Velthera. The destruction of Red Rock changed everything. The colonies that had wanted to evacuate became angry and wanted to fight. The colonies that had wanted to fight became even more determined. President Santos called another emergency meeting. They killed 500,000 innocent people, she said, her voice filled with anger. They're not just asking us to leave our colonies. They're threatening to commit genocide. General Wright was still cautious. Madam President, if we fight them, they might destroy Earth itself. We have 8 billion people to consider. Captain Taylor slammed her hand on the table. If we surrender, we'll be slaves forever. And who's to say they won't decide to reduce our population later? Species like this don't keep their promises. Engineer Murphy entered the room carrying a strange-looking device. I've got something that might help us decide, he said. I've built a weapon based on the Velthera data. It generates electromagnetic pulses that should disrupt Kethmori technology. Have you tested it? President Santos asked. Only in simulations, but the theory is sound. If we can get close enough to their ships, we might be able to disable them. Admiral. Cross studied the device. How close? About 10 kilometers. That's the effective range of the electromagnetic pulse. 10 kilometers? General Wright shook his head. Their weapons can destroy our ships from much farther away. How do we get that close? Captain Taylor smiled grimly. We use tactics they won't expect hit-and-run attacks. Small, fast ships that can get close before they react. President Santos made her decision. We're going to fight. But we're going to be smart about it. Captain Taylor, I want you to select volunteers for a special mission. Use Murphy's new weapons and test them against any Kethmori ships you can find. What about the colonies? Admiral Cross asked. We evacuate who we can, but we also prepare. Defenses for those who stay. Every colony gets some of Murphy's new weapons. We make the Kethmori pay for every world they attack. The next few days were busy as humanity prepared for war. Captain Taylor selected 50 volunteers for the special mission. They were pilots and soldiers who knew they might not survive, but they wanted to fight for human freedom. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and his crew made an incredible discovery. At the final Velthera beacon, they found something that changed everything. Dr. Kane was so excited she could barely speak. Captain, you need to see this, she said. The last beacon isn't just a warning or a study, it's a prison. A prison? Morrison asked. The Velthera captured a Kethmori ship before they were destroyed. They've been holding 3 Kethmori prisoners for millions of years, keeping them in some kind of suspended animation. Commander Barnes looked at the readings. Are they still alive? The beacon systems are still working. If we can access the prison, we might be able to question them. Learn more about their technology and their plans. Amy Foster was studying the communication systems. Captain, I'm detecting something else. The beacon is sending a signal deeper into space. It's been broadcasting for millions of years, but not the same warning message as the others. What kind of signal? It's a distress call. The Velthera were calling for help. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Help from who? I don't know, but the signal is being answered. There's something out there. Beyond our galaxy, that's been receiving the Velthera's call for help. Dr. Kane worked frantically to access the prison systems. After several hours, she managed to wake up one of the Kethmori prisoners. The being was weak and disoriented, but it was alive. Where are we? The prisoner asked in the same musical voice they had heard from Kethvalor. You're on a Velthera beacon, Morrison said. You've been imprisoned here for millions of years. The prisoner's silver eyes focused on Morrison. You are human, the young species. Why have you awakened me? We're at war with your people. We need to understand why you want to destroy us. The prisoner laughed, but it was a sad sound. Destroy you? We do not wish to destroy anyone. We are trying to protect you. Protect us from what? From the same thing that destroyed the Velthera, the same thing that destroyed the Kethmori homeworld. We are not the rulers of this galaxy, human. We are its guardians. Morrison felt confused, but your people attacked our colonies. You killed innocent people. My people are fools, the prisoner said. They have forgotten why we became guardians. They think power makes them rulers, but the real threat is still out there, waiting. What threat? The Devourers. They consume entire galaxies, leaving nothing behind. They destroyed our homeworld and billions of our people. The few survivors became guardians, watching for signs of their return. Amy Foster looked up from her station. Captain, that distress signal the Velthera were sending? It's being answered. Something is coming from beyond the galaxy. Multiple signatures moving at incredible speed. The prisoner's eyes widened with terror. No, it cannot be. The Devourers have found us. Morrison grabbed the prisoner's arm. How do we fight them? You cannot fight them alone. No single species can. The Kethmori, the humans, every species in the galaxy must work together. Captain Morrison's ship raced back toward Earth carrying the most important passenger in human history. The Kethmori prisoner, who called himself Kethdrin, sat in the ship's medical bay while Dr. Kane monitored his condition. He was weak from millions of years in suspended animation, but his message was clear. A greater threat was coming. How can we trust him? Commander Barnes asked Morrison privately. His people just killed 500,000 humans on Red Rock. Morrison looked through the window at the alien being. Because he's terrified. I've seen fear before, Rick. Whatever these Devourers are, they scare him more than we do. Meanwhile, Captain Taylor's Special Operations Team was preparing for their first strike against the Kethmori. They had 50 small, fast ships equipped with Engineer Murphy's new electromagnetic pulse weapons. Their target was a Kethmori patrol near the colony world of Blue Ridge. Remember, we need to get within 10 kilometers, Captain Taylor told her pilots over the communication system. Hit them fast, test the weapons, and get out. We're not trying to win the war today. We're trying to learn how to fight. The human ships approached the Kethmori patrol using an asteroid field for cover. The alien ships were beautiful and terrifying, like living crystal that moved through space without any visible engines. There were 3 of them, each about twice the size of a human destroyer. All ships, this is Taylor. Execute attack pattern Alpha. The human ships burst from the asteroid field at maximum speed. The Kethmori ships reacted instantly, turning to face the attackers with weapons charging. But the humans were ready for this. Fire electromagnetic pulse now, Taylor shouted. 50 human ships fired Murphy's new weapons at the same time. Bright blue energy waves swept toward the Kethmori ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ships began to flicker like broken television screens. It's working! One of the pilots shouted. Their ships are losing power! The Kethmori ships tried to return fire, but their weapons sputtered and failed. One ship went completely dark and began drifting in space. The other 2 managed to escape, but they were clearly damaged. Captain Taylor felt a moment of hope. All ships return to base. We've got what we came for. But their victory was short-lived. 3 hours later, 20 Kethmori ships appeared over Blue Ridge Colony. The attack was swift and merciless. The colony's defenses, even with the new electromagnetic weapons, couldn't stop so many ships at once. When the attack was over, Blue Ridge was gone and 2 million people were dead. The message from Kethvalor came immediately after. Humans, you have chosen to fight us with crude weapons. For every ship you damage, we will destroy a colony. For every Kethmori you kill, we will kill 1 million humans. Surrender now or watch your species burn. President Santos received the news in her office with Admiral Cross and General Wright. The room was silent for a long moment after they watched the recording of Blue Ridge's destruction. "Ma'am, we can't keep fighting like this," General Wright said quietly. "They'll destroy every colony in human space." "Maybe that's what they want," Admiral Cross replied. "Maybe they want us angry and desperate so we make mistakes." President Santos stood up and walked to her window. "How long until Captain Morrison returns?" 2 days, Admiral Cross answered. "Then we wait." Morrison said he had important information. Maybe it will change things, but the Kethmori didn't wait. Over the next 2 days, they attacked 3 more colonies. Each attack was preceded by a human strike against their ships, and each time the Kethmori responded by destroying an entire world. The pattern was clear. They were teaching humanity that resistance was futile. When the new frontier finally reached Earth, Captain Morrison rushed directly to President Santos with Kethrin. The alien prisoner was weak but determined to deliver his message. "President Santos," Morrison said, "this is Kethrin. He's been imprisoned by the Velthera for millions of years. He has information that changes everything." Kethrin looked at the human leader with his large silver eyes. "Your species and mine are fighting over nothing while the real threat approaches. The Devourers are coming, and when they arrive, this war will seem like a children's game." "Tell me about these Devourers," President Santos said. "They are not from this galaxy," Kethrin explained. "They travel from galaxy to galaxy, consuming all life. They destroyed the Kethmori homeworld and billions of my people. The survivors became guardians, watching for signs of their return." General Wright leaned forward. "If you're guardians, why are you attacking our colonies?" "Because my people have forgotten their purpose," Kethrin said sadly. "Millions of years of power have corrupted them. They believe they rule the galaxy instead of protecting it. But the Devourers care nothing for rulers. They consume everything." Dr. Kane, who had been studying the data from the beacons, spoke up. "According to our analysis, the Devourers will reach this galaxy in about 5 months. They're using technology that lets them travel between galaxies. How do we fight them?" President Santos asked. "Alone, neither humans nor Kethmori can survive," Kethrin replied. "But together, with all the species of the galaxy united, we might have a chance. The Devourers are powerful, but they can be stopped if we work together." Admiral Cross looked skeptical. "How do we convince your people to stop this war? They've killed millions of humans. There's a lot of anger on both sides." "You must speak to the Kethmori Council," Kethrin said. "I will help you contact them. But you must understand, some of my people would rather die fighting the Devourers than work with younger species." President Santos made a decision that surprised everyone. "I'll go myself. I'll speak to this council." "Madam President, that's too dangerous," General Wright protested. "Everything is dangerous now," she replied. "If there's a chance to stop this war and save both our species, I have to try." While President Santos prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history, Engineer Murphy was working frantically to improve the electromagnetic weapons. The attacks on the colonies had shown that single ships using the weapons could hurt the Kethmori, but not stop large fleets. "I need more power," Murphy told his team. "The electromagnetic pulse works, but it's not strong enough to disable multiple ships at once." His assistant, Dr. Nina Clark, had an idea. "What if we don't use ships? What if we build a planetary defense system? Massive electromagnetic generators that could disable entire fleets. How long would that take?" "If we work around the clock and use every resource we have, maybe 3 months. But that's cutting it close with the Devourers coming," Murphy nodded. "Start immediately. Contact every engineering team in human space. This is our priority now." Meanwhile, Captain Taylor was preparing for another type of mission. If the diplomatic talks failed, humanity would need to hurt the Kethmori badly enough to get their attention. We're going to attack their main fleet, she told her pilots. Intelligence says they have a command ship somewhere near the galactic core. If we can damage or destroy it, maybe we can force them to negotiate. Commander Lisa Grant, who ran Earth's intelligence services, had spent weeks studying Kethmori movements. The command ship is called the Eternal Throne. It's massive, bigger than any ship we've ever seen. But our analysis suggests it's also their most important vessel. How many ships are protecting it? Taylor asked. At least 100. Maybe more, and we have 50 ships with electromagnetic weapons. It's a suicide mission, Grant said bluntly. Taylor smiled grimly. Then we better make it count. The diplomatic mission launched first. President Santos, accompanied by Kethrin and a small team, traveled to the coordinates the alien had provided. The meeting place was an ancient space station in neutral territory. Built by a species that had died out long ago, the Kethmori Council consisted of 12 beings who looked similar to Kethrin, but seemed older and more powerful. Their leader, called the First Guardian, listened to President Santos speak about the coming threat. You ask us to believe that the Devourers have returned, the First Guardian said. You ask us to end our righteous punishment of your species and work together. Instead, I'm asking you to remember why you became Guardians in the first place, President Santos replied. Kethrin tells me you once protected the galaxy. The Devourers are coming whether we fight each other or not. Together we might survive. Apart, we'll all die. Another council member, called the War Speaker, disagreed. Humans are too aggressive, too unpredictable. They will betray us the moment the threat passes. Maybe, President Santos admitted. But if the Devourers consume the galaxy, there won't be a moment after the threat passes. We'll all be dead. The debate continued for hours while both species waited to see if peace was possible, but time was running out. Captain Taylor's mission was already underway, and if the talks failed, the war would escalate beyond any hope of peace. Outside the station, long-range sensors detected the first signs of the approaching Devourers. Dark shapes moving between the stars, consuming everything in their path. They were still months away, but their arrival was no longer in doubt. The galaxy faced its greatest crisis, and the two species that should have been working together were still trying to decide if they could trust each other. The Devourers didn't care about their politics or their fears. Captain Taylor's fleet approached the Eternal Throne just as President Santos finished her speech to the Kethmori Council. The timing was terrible, but Taylor had no choice. If the diplomatic talks failed, humanity needed to show they could hurt the Kethmori badly enough to force real negotiations. All ships, this is Captain Taylor, she said over the communication system. We can see the Eternal Throne ahead. It's even bigger than our intelligence reported. The Kethmori command ship was enormous, almost like a floating city made of crystal and metal. It was surrounded by defensive ships that moved in perfect formations around it like a protective shell. Taylor, this is Admiral Cross back on Earth, came a transmission. The diplomatic talks are still ongoing. Hold your position and wait for orders. Taylor looked at her tactical display. Admiral, we have a narrow window here. If we wait, we might lose our chance. The President needs leverage in those negotiations. Before Admiral Cross could respond, long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. Fleet Admiral John Hayes, who had been monitoring the edge of the galaxy, sent an urgent message to all human and Kethmori forces. This is Admiral Hayes at the galactic perimeter. The Devourers have arrived early. They're not 5 months away. They're here now, and they're moving fast toward the galactic core. The message reached the Kethmori Council Station at the same time. President Santos watched as the alien beings received the same information through their own communication systems. The First Guardian's silver eyes widened with what could only be described as terror. The Devourers, Kethrin whispered. They're faster than we calculated. Dr. Karen Bell, a Kethmori specialist who had joined the diplomatic mission, studied the incoming data. They're consuming entire star systems as they move. Hundreds of billions of lives are already gone. The war speaker of the Kethmori Council stood up angrily. This is a human trick. They bring false warnings to distract us from their attack on our command ship. Look at your own sensors, President Santos said firmly. Your people can detect them just as well as we can. This isn't a trick. This is the end of everything if we don't work together. Captain Dan Lewis, who commanded the tactical analysis team back on Earth, was studying the Devourer ships through long-range telescopes. These aren't ships in any sense we understand, he reported. They're more like living creatures the size of moons. They're literally eating the matter of entire planets and growing larger. The first Guardian looked at the data streaming in from the galactic rim. Entire sectors were going dark as the Devourers consumed them. How many are there? Our sensors detect at least 50 of the large ones, Admiral Hayes reported, plus thousands of smaller ones. They're moving in a coordinated pattern toward the densest areas of the galaxy. Captain Taylor made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of attacking the Eternal Throne, she opened a communication channel to the Kethmori command ship. This is Captain Taylor of the human fleet. We came here to attack you, but the situation has changed. The Devourers are here. We should be fighting them, not each other, the response came from Kethvalor himself. Human Captain, your words are wise, but trust is not easily given. How do we know this is not deception? Because, Taylor replied, we're about to prove it. All human ships, change course. We're heading to intercept the nearest Devourer. Taylor's fleet of 50 ships turned away from the Eternal Throne and raced toward the galactic rim. The Kethmori fleet watched them go, uncertain whether this was strategy or genuine cooperation. Back at the council station, President Santos pressed her advantage. My people are already moving to fight the real enemy. The question is whether your people will join them or continue this pointless war while the galaxy burns. Kethrin spoke to his own people in their musical language. The council members listened, their expressions showing the internal struggle between their pride and their fear. Finally, the first Guardian made his decision. We will call it temporary. Cease fire, he announced. But if this is deception, we will destroy every human world in retribution. Fair enough, President Santos replied. If we're lying, there won't be any worlds left for you to destroy anyway. The first combined human-Kethmori battle against the Devourers took place near the edge of the galaxy. Captain Taylor's electromagnetic weapons proved effective at disrupting the smaller Devourer creatures, but the large ones seemed immune to the technology. The big ones are too powerful, Taylor reported as her ships retreated from their first encounter. Our weapons can hurt the small ones, but we need something bigger for the main creatures. Engineer Murphy, working frantically back on Earth, had been studying the data from the battle. The electromagnetic pulses work, but we need to amplify them somehow. What if we combined our technology with Kethmori power sources? The idea was radical. Human and Kethmori technology had never been combined before. But with the Devourers consuming star systems every hour, there was no time for careful testing. Ambassador Ruth Chun, who had taken over diplomatic coordination, arranged for human and Kethmori engineers to work together. The cooperation was awkward at first, but both species realized that their survival depended on combining their strengths. The Kethmori power systems are incredible, Murphy reported after the first joint engineering session. They can generate 1,000 times more energy than our systems. If we can channel that through our electromagnetic weapons, we might be able to stop the large Devourers. The first prototype weapon was ready within a week. It was installed on a joint human-Kethmori ship that looked like nothing either species had ever built before. Captain Alex Stone, a fleet commander known for his innovative tactics, volunteered to test the new weapon. This is Stone, approaching the target Devourer. The creature is approximately the size of Earth's moon and appears to be feeding on the remains of a gas giant. The combined weapon fired, sending a massive electromagnetic pulse toward the Devourer. The creature reacted immediately, writhing in apparent pain and releasing the matter it had been consuming. For the first time since their arrival, a large Devourer had been hurt. It works, Stone reported. The creature is retreating. But celebration was premature. The injured devourer sent out some kind of signal, and within hours, dozens of other devourers were converging on that location. The single prototype weapon couldn't handle so many enemies. "We need more ships with the combined weapons, Admiral," Hayes reported, "and we need them fast. The devourers are adapting to our attacks." The next few weeks saw the greatest cooperation in galactic history. Human factories worked alongside Kethmori manufacturing systems to produce hybrid ships as quickly as possible. Both species shared their most advanced technologies freely, knowing that holding back anything could doom them all. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, led the first major combined fleet against the Devourer main force. The battle took place near the galactic core, where the creatures were trying to consume the energy-rich region around the central black hole. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Humans and Kethmori together. Today we fight not as separate species, but as defenders of all life in this galaxy." The battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Hundreds of ships from both species worked together with perfect coordination. The combined electromagnetic weapons proved devastating against the Devourers, destroying dozens of the large creatures and thousands of the smaller ones, but the victory came at a cost. Many brave beings from both species died in the fighting. The Devourers fought back with weapons that seemed to bend space itself, destroying entire squadrons in moments. After 3 days of continuous battle, the surviving Devourers retreated toward the edge of the galaxy. They had been defeated, but both species knew they would return with different tactics. "This is just the beginning," Kethrin warned as the fleets regrouped. "The Devourers will learn from this defeat. They'll come back stronger." Admiral Morrison looked at the mixed fleet of human and Kethmori ships. "Then we'll be ready for them. Both our species have learned something important. We're stronger together than apart." The war between humans and Kethmori was officially ended a week later. The peace treaty was signed by President Santos and the First Guardian on the same station where they had first met. But the document was more than just a peace treaty. It was the founding charter of the Galactic Defense Alliance. "Today marks the beginning of a new age," President Santos said at the signing ceremony. "Not an age of human expansion or Kethmori dominance, but an age of cooperation against the darkness that threatens us all." The First Guardian nodded solemnly. "The Devourers will return. But when they do, they will find a united galaxy waiting for them." 6 months later, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, the first ship designed jointly by human and Kethmori engineers. The ship was part of a new fleet that patrolled the galactic rim, watching for signs of the Devourers. "Return, Admiral," reported Captain Lisa Grant, his new communications officer. "We're receiving a signal from outside the galaxy. It's the same type the Velthora beacons were sending." Morrison smiled. "Another species calling for help?" "Yes, sir. From the Andromeda Galaxy. They're facing the same threat we defeated." Morrison looked out at the stars, thinking about the future.